Hello, I am Patrick Barnard speaking to you from Montreal, in fact, Montreal's Westmount Park, a really beautiful place. It is May 26, 2026. This is the 37th edition of the International Press Review. And today I'll be talking about this book by Lyse Doucet, The Finest Hotel in Kabul. This is a terrific book by a Canadian journalist. She was born in New Brunswick, here in the Maritime. She's an Anglophone. She started out as a freelancer in Afghanistan and now is chief diplomatic correspondent for the BBC World Service. So in this brief look at her book, we're going to talk about Afghanistan and its history, how she recounts that in a special way, and also about her career as a journalist. I first listened to Lyse Doucet on CBC radio. Her reports were being carried here in Canada, and she was reporting from Afghanistan. I was really struck by the intelligence, clarity, honesty, and warmth of human feeling from her reports. And I was not alone in being impressed in this way. Lyse Doucet went to Afghanistan in 1988, 1989 to cover the withdrawal of the Russians from the country. There you can see a picture of her from that period. She got to talk to many, many different people. For example, the Haqqani faction of the Taliban. Very tough customers. She dressed as a man to do that part of the story. Lyse Doucet first went to Afghanistan almost 40 years ago, and she's been many, many times since. And when she went in her repertorial voyages there, she stayed at the famous InterContinental Hotel in Kabul. It was opened in 1969, really one of a kind in the whole country. And Doucet got the idea of using her very deep contacts with staff at the hotel who liked her so much, using those contacts to tell the story of Afghanistan over the last 50 plus years through their eyes and their lives. Doucet was in Australia recently and told James Glenday, the host of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation's morning program, the roots, the background of this book that she's written.
I've been reporting on Afghanistan since a very long time ago during the Cold War, when there was a Soviet empire. You had a news item about Vladimir Putin, who now heads the Russian Federation. And I was there during a very historic moment, the Soviet troop withdrawal from Afghanistan, which was the main news at the time. And I've continued to report from Afghanistan. And I wanted to find, James, a way to tell that story through a more familiar prism. In my case, I chose Afghanistan's first luxury hotel, the InterContinental Kabul, which was inaugurated there, a very glitzy opening ceremony when Afghanistan was a kingdom. And through this prism, I've been able to tell a 50-year arc of history through war and peace and back to war again, through the lives of this hotel, where waiters and bellboys and housekeepers and visitors kept that hotel going through thick and thin. So it's a little microcosm.
One of the powers of Lyse Doucet's book is that the reader feels that he or she gets to meet and know many of these staff members who worked at the InterContinental. They are really the bearers of the story. One of them is a woman called Abida Nazeri. She was hired at that hotel more than a quarter century ago. She was famous in Kabul for her dumplings. She was also described as a sous chef, a seamstress, a widow, a mother of 8 children. And her life was marked by the terrible violence that runs through this book. She lost her husband to a rocket that hit him in Kabul. And that was 10 years before she went to work for the hotel. She is one of the prominent and moving figures in the book. You are looking at a picture of the InterContinental Hotel of Kabul when it was attacked in 2018 by the Taliban. And there were 2 such attacks, one in 2011, one in 2018. The life of the hotel itself has been a mirror of the country of Afghanistan, which in the last 50 plus years has had a king, a kind of quasi-republic, then the invasion by the Russians, then the invasion later on by the Americans, and 2 rounds of Taliban rule, which is still in place again today. You are looking now at the photo of a man known by his colleagues and by Lyse Doucet simply as Hazrat, a man who worked 50 years at the InterContinental Hotel, starting when he was in his early 20s in the 1970s. And he was a man who spoke a couple of languages, a very unusual man, an athlete in his youth, very brave, very dignified, very fine human being. Doucet writes about him. He had worked with everyone who took charge, took over the reins of the InterContinental. Royals, communists, warlords, Taliban, wannabe Democrats. His job was always to serve. I love this book by Lyse Doucet, and I think it's full of the warmth and love that she feels for the people who worked in the InterContinental Hotel. Hazrat no longer works there, neither does Abida. It's now a kind of, I would say, almost a ministry of the Taliban. But for Lyse Doucet, it was very important. That's where her journalistic career really began, when she was writing from room 132 in the InterContinental. And the book ends with a lovely evocation of Hazrat, whom she associates with the hotel itself and whom she obviously was close to. Sometimes, she writes, I even try to do as he did, as Hazrat did, and go back in time to the corridor on the first floor, in the ever-so-plain green and brown room 132, where I sat waiting for telephone calls to come through, writing madly at my wooden desk, wondering and sometimes worrying about what the next day would bring. The world of this hotel, the world outside its walls, has turned inside and out so many times since I first came here. And that is the end of this 37th International Press Review. I am Patrick Barnard in Montreal, saying goodbye for now.